Hi guys, it's Jackie at Famished Farm, and today we had record temperatures when I woke up this morning. For Northwest Alabama, -4 degrees is crazy cold, plus the 3 inches of snow on the ground at my house and no snow plows in the county. We're at a standstill basically until the weather starts warming up. So good time to concentrate on the year of minimal me and my pantry challenge, which you'll remember I identified 7 things that we're trying to reduce. Jello in the freezer, chia and flax seeds, malt and barley flour and nutritional yeast, dill pickles, strawberry jam, and texturized vegetable protein. So what we did this week is we used a meal planner because we're also working on our budget to get our finances to work for us. And so after sitting down with the recipes I want to test, what Rod wanted to eat, and my constraints as far as what I'm trying to use up in the pantry, we've come up with a list of 7 meals. And it's midweek now, so some of these we've already had. Rod wanted to have meatloaf, soup and sandwich, breakfast for dinner, and brats. He had bought a package of brats. So what I did then is pull out 3 of my new recipes to test. And actually one of them, I have multiple versions. That is a turkey sausage that I saw on Oprah a million years ago. And her chef printed a recipe in a magazine. And so I've taken the multiple recipes I have for that. So that's one recipe we'll be experimenting with. Easy salsa verde chicken enchiladas. And that we decided we're trying to do meatless Monday also, and that we've converted to vegetarian. And then I've got a couple of these no-knead sandwich bread recipes also. And the first one we're trying, we'll see how that goes. So what we're making this week and what we've already had is the breakfast for dinner. I made homemade English muffins for that. We'll save that for another time. Salsa verde chicken, the beef bourguignon out of the freezer. And then we are going to make a sticky sesame chicken thighs, one of our favorites, our brats, pizza, and soup and sandwich. So I've got my calendar all sorted with my recipes. I think we're ready to get cooking. Here I am sorting recipes. Now these are my existing favorite recipes, things I've made before, and test recipes. And the problem is just trying to locate all of your different stashes of where you might be hiding these recipes. But I have accomplished that, and now I'm working to whittle down and trying to be very strict about what I'm going to make going forward. So what I've decided to do is I'm no longer going to keep recipes for summer versus winter. That's just not working for me. I'm just not keeping them as organized as I would like them. So in my 2024 calendar, I've made categories for meat, chicken, fish, meatless, breakfast, bread, and sides. So going forward, that is how each of those folders, then I'll have a folder that's like that, but the ones that I want to make immediately will be in my calendar. And so it's just a process, and it takes some time, but once it's done, it's wonderful. This is texturized vegetable protein. And what I'm doing here is showing the process I did to reduce or eliminate that artificial chicken flavor that I hated. And it's just boiling hot water, soak it, and I use my potato masher to try to squeeze out some of that extra flavor. And it does work. So happy to report that. I will be able to use my I've got a lot of this stuff, so I'm happy that I can use it. We're going to work on our bread recipe. This is a no-knead sandwich bread from Real Simple magazine, and I've got several bread recipes to try. This is the first time I'm doing a no-knead sandwich bread. Basically, you start with 3.5 cups of bread flour, and to that we're going to add 1.5 cups of whole milk at room temperature, and then a little bit of granulated sugar, and I use yeast packets. If I have bottles of yeast, they never get used, so I just use the packets, and then I don't have to worry about my yeast going bad. And then the next ingredient is 6 tablespoons of butter, but they want you, of melted butter. They want you to reserve 1 tablespoon, and that, of course, will go on top of the bread when it comes out of the oven. But what we're going to do is just mix this together just until the dry ingredients are incorporated. And once that's done, we're just going to cover it with a towel, and then we're going to let it rest for 20 minutes. So we'll be coming back to this shortly. The easy salsa verde chicken enchiladas, I messed up right from the beginning. It calls for cheddar or some Mexican cheese blend. I do both cheddar and pepper jack and a little more than they called for. I probably did about 1.5 cups. Over at the cooktop, I'm skipping the oil and the cloves of garlic and just going straight for the salsa verde, to which in a second I'll add a little bit of dry garlic powder. And then I have this little packet of Korean chili flakes that I'm going to end up putting the whole thing in the pan, and it was just the perfect amount of spice. So you may want to up the spice a little bit. I also add 1/2 cup of sour cream, and I'm just combining this, and then I add in I'm using frozen mushrooms today. That's what I had. You're going to have some water, of course, released from those mushrooms, so I did let that reduce down a little bit before adding the cheese and my texturized vegetable protein. Back with our bread, which has had a 20-minute rest period. You probably thought I forgot the salt, but I did not. They have you add it at this point, I'm sure, because it protects the yeast, gives the yeast a chance to bloom. It is hard to incorporate the salt at that point, but I will say the finished product was perfectly fine. So I'm in the future going to add some of my chia seeds and my flax seed at that point to get those used up. But once we're done here adding that salt in, we're just going to cover it tightly with some saran wrap, and then that is going to go into our refrigerator for the first proof, and they say you can do it 8 hours. I just chose to leave it in there overnight. Now we're going to fill up our tortillas with this enchilada mix, and I'm just trying to press out any of the extra liquid, the sauce, that's going to go over the top of the enchiladas when we're done here rolling them up. And you'll notice I've got 2 different sizes of tortillas. I'm just working with what I've got in the freezer, and you'll see how I handle that in just a moment. Here's our pan, a nice greased Pyrex, and I just kind of hack the end off there, and I'll do that with this one too, so we've got 2 little pieces to make a full one. And that's our enchiladas. Once we get the sauce over the top, we'll get that in the refrigerator till we're ready for dinner. Oops, I almost forgot the cheese. Get this on the top, and then it will be ready to go in to the refrigerator. Good morning again. So today we're going to get the bread made. We're going to put our beef bourguignon in the slow cooker to have for dinner tonight. And we'll get this ground turkey Italian sausage hack made up. It really worked out great having the remaining beef bourguignon in the slow cooker. It made the beef so tender. It was probably in there 4 or 5 hours, but it went in at high temperature, and then when it came up to temperature, a little bubbling around the edges, we turned it down to low. And this dough that's come out of the refrigerator overnight is beautiful. I pull my silicone mat out and I'm going to dust it with some flour so we can get this divided. And what I've decided to do is to make 2 mini loaves of bread and then 4 hot dog rolls. That's going to be what I need for the meals coming up. And I just use my dough scraper here to separate that dough. And it works really nicely. And I just wish I was a little better with this particular type of folding. The recipe says that you shape the dough into an oval, and then you pull one of the short ends of the oval in toward the center, pressing gently to seal, and then you pull the other end into the center, pressing gently to fold. Then fold the dough in half over itself, pressing gently to seal, and form an 8-inch long log. That, of course, would be for the whole loaf of bread. So I kind of mess around and figure out what works for each of these 2 mini loaves and then these 4 hot dog rolls. And I've watched this a few times. I think I'm just going to need more practice on figuring out how to adapt this to make it mine. The bread is delicious, though. So I'm pulling the ingredients for this recipe for this kind of faux Italian sausage made with turkey sausage. And the original recipe that I'm testing is probably from a magazine, like a Fit and Light type magazine from, who knows, a decade ago, something like that. And it turns out, I'll just kind of cut to the chase, the seasoning in it is not to my liking. And it's much too mild. It just tastes like lightly seasoned ground beef. Now, having said that, I think I'll keep in the next recipe that I'm going to test a little later, or basically I'm going to doctor this recipe I'm making right now. I'll keep the addition of the grated apple and the egg whites and the panko, and just add in more spices. But you'll see that coming up a little bit later. Once the bread is shaped, it just goes in my warm oven to proof. And here is our beef stew coming along really nicely. And we're back with the sausage. I've fried up a little bit to see how the seasoning is, and I'm just not liking it. So recipe 2 calls for a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or red wine vinegar. I'm going to add dried parsley, garlic powder, and onion powder, roughly a teaspoon of each. Dried basil, again about a teaspoon. I'm making a third of a recipe. Some paprika, red pepper flakes, and a little bit of fennel seed. Again, fennel's not my favorite thing, but I add a little bit because I've got it. And I'm going to come back and do the black pepper, a little bit of oregano, and a little bit of thyme. So I'm going to put this, mix it up well, put it back in the fridge again, and give it a taste tomorrow. I'm thinking this time in the refrigerator is just going to help marry the flavors, and we'll give it a try tomorrow and see what we think. We're going to have this on pizza later in the week. So if we like it, it'll be a big win. Day 2 of our half-baked harvest beef bourguignon was delicious. The wine cooked out, so I would use the wine in the recipe again. The mushrooms, the carrots, everything were delicious. 2 thumbs up in our house, and something I would consider making again in a second. Our no-knead sandwich bread by Real Simple magazine, January 2019. This was delicious, and I will definitely be making this again. We had a mini loaf with dinner, and I had way more bread than I usually eat. It was fantastic. It is easy to make because it is no knead. It just will take me a few more times of this stretch and fold technique to put the loaf together. You can tell the loaf on the right is a little misshapen because I wasn't as careful as I might have been. Again, 2 thumbs up, delicious loaf of bread. Our easy salsa verde chicken enchiladas, which per their suggestion, we did make into a vegetarian version using mushrooms, and I used off my pantry challenge that texturized vegetable protein that I was able to get rid of the artificial chicken taste, and these were very good and super easy to make. I did not use the teaspoon of oil and the garlic cloves. I used garlic powder. I used my own canned salsa verde, and I left out the cilantro. And I kind of messed up the cheese too, but you can't go wrong with more cheese. So we used flour tortillas. Rod loved this. I love this. Would make this again easily. On my next video, I'll report back about my turkey sausage, Italian sausage hack, and I'll let you know if that worked. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you next time.